Hey guys, welcome back to Green Chat. My name is Cleeze, and this is a place where you can ask me questions. I can give you my opinion to formulate your own, or at least it was. So I had to make even more changes in my life, especially with Green Chat. And what I moved to is Twitch. I am going to Twitch as much as I can throughout the week, and then post my highlights here, and that is what Green Chat will shift to in the meantime. So if you want to come check me out, call me Cleeze on Twitch. Anytime you jump in there, you want to talk Pantheon, I will drop what I'm doing and Pantheon it up. Otherwise, that is what this is, and it's kind of a new format. We'll see how it works. I hope it goes well. I kind of did this thing on the healers this week. I'm also going to try to go into some of the flight questions or opinions about flight in MMOs. And I'm just going to keep rolling with that, and then throughout the week, compress everything into a video for a weekly release. And this will give me the ability to push out the content, at least to give people something to look at or watch Pantheon-related out there, because I know I love it, and hopefully you do too. Sorry if you really enjoyed my old stuff, and hopefully this changes for the better, or at least content wise, because last week was kind of a pilot week for me, just messing with Twitch, and it went really well. I think don't watch it because it was mostly a lot of testing and stupid garbage, but it easily worked out. So hopefully this is something that we can keep going forward with, which I think it is. So hey guys, I hope you enjoy. I'm just going to cut it out here and roll that intro, and hope you're doing well, and I'll see you again really soon. Alrighty. Hey guys, welcome back to Green Chat After Dark. It's not going to be called that very soon. I'm going to change the name of this. It's probably just going to be like, hey, welcome back to my stream. My name is Cleeze, and let's get started. So, today, I want to talk about Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, and really the healers. I've been trying to do this a couple days now, and unsuccessfully doing it so, because I think I was trying to respond to individuals versus solidifying my position. Excuse me, I'm drinking a kombucha, kind of gives me a little, but yeah, so what I'm going to do here is have a little fun with myself. Exactly. I'm going to have a little fun here with myself, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So what I'm going to do is set a challenge for myself to relay what I'm trying to say in 30 minutes. Set a timer, rock and roll, and it's probably going to scream at us when we're done here, but we'll find out. Find out what happens. We shall see. So let us begin. What I'm talking about specifically is the healers in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. We have the Druid, the Cleric, and the Shaman. So I made some notes, did some little notepad taken here, and the one thing I think is pretty interesting, or not interesting, what we need to do to start this little escapade, and also I'm doing this while I'm streaming, because why not? Why not, good sir? So you could jump in here and be like, yo, you're an idiot right while I'm doing this, and that's kind of the point. I don't know what I'm going to, and then I just kind of jump on here every night and spend time doing this. I'm wasting my 30 minutes. What am I doing? I just spent 30 seconds to it. Oh, God. So, yeah. Basically, you need to pretend like you're a developer when you're getting analytical with the classes. Why? Because that's what makes the most sense. So, what do I mean by that? You need to think about these classes when they're making these classes in the sense that they need to exist in today's format. They need to be they already said they're going to do more releases, so they need to be designed around the fact that there's going to be expandability to the classes. And you're in 2018, ladies and gentlemen, right now. This game's going to be coming out in 25,000. Who knows, actually, but probably sometime around 2020, maybe. Who knows? We all hope. But regardless, it's even going to be more interesting then. And yes, there is a trend back to more challenging games lately. I mean, not a trend, but I think we're coming full circle maybe as far as the way developers and investors are looking at these type of things and the way that we can invest in our games. So looking at this as a developer, these healers need to make sense. So that's the first point. But before we continue, there's been a lot of discussion roundabout about, especially not necessarily what I meant by reactive and proactive healing, but I think we need to clear the water up about reactive and proactive healing, and to do that we need to look at raw numbers. So because that's going to come up a lot, at least with my perspective, on the Druid, the Shaman, and the Cleric. When I'm comparing them, the idea that you know, the Cleric is a reactive healer and the Druid is kind of a little bit of a both, and the Shaman is very heavily leaned in the proactive direction, is at least my opinion. So one game that really tracks all of their data well is World of Warcraft, so I'm going to use them as an example. I mean, they upload all of their logs, and these logs are, I guess, they use timestamps back to, what is it, timing servers? What are those, NDS? Doesn't really matter, but these logs are not, they are able to make them official. Like, you can't doctor them in any way. I mean, you can, but you doing that would be a problem. Like, why would you do, you can't. You could, but they don't. Let's just say it like that. So I picked this one because this is a very high-end guild, I guess. Their progress looks pretty solid. A very high-end progress going on here. But what I wanted to show was a great example of, a very extreme example of proactive and reactive healing and what's going on here. Excuse me. So a lot of people have been saying that proactive healers will, in essence, waste a ton of mana for the actual amount of effective healing they actually do. And that is typically very true. And in this case, it's very in your face that that's the case. I'm not going to show it yet. Sorry, this kombucha is ruining me here. But you can almost pretend like, Cathera here is mostly a proactive healer. There are some, I mean, they can also reactively heal as well as that, but there is a lot of proactive healing going on with this class right here. And there's a lot of reactive healing going on with this Inhumanity buddy here. This pink bar. This is a paladin. This is a priest. And this is this is a druid. And druids are a lot like what I would expect. They get a lot of hots and stuff. Heal over time type heals. So what I'm going to show you here is this is the effective healing they performed during the encounter. If I turn on raw healing, it will turn on how much healing they did raw, like even including overhealing. So if you notice here, this proactive healer is just destroying more than half of this healer's bar is wasted. Complete overheal, not even used. So that's just, you could consider that wasted mana. Some people would, I would not. And then here's the paladin. So we got 32% overheal on the paladin and a 64% on this priest. So that's a really, again, this is an extreme example. Same thing with this druid here. The druid is proactive, and the druid is 50% of the druid is overhealing. Now, why would a group not take the most efficient healer? Why would they not just bring 4 paladins? Because they could if they totally would. And the level of progression of this guild, they don't care about class balancing. They are going to take the best combo they can to get through this content. I can almost guarantee you that would be the case. And this is likely what they find to work best for them. So why would very awesome players in today's age be wasting that much mana? Because of sustain. These classes have a ton of sustain, so they can blow through a lot of mana because they can efficiently spend it. Basically, and any mana back usually goes to any of these classes during any cooldowns during the raid, but which is a little bit different than most would consider. But that is really, I'm not really trying to say, hey, explain proactive healing and reactive healing with this. I'm just trying to show you that yes, mana is wasted, and that's kind of the only way you can proactively heal. You can't anticipate exactly where the damage is going to go, and that's the point of proactive healing. You can make your best judgment, and that really is going to what divides proactive healers for the most part. We're seeing where I'm at here. 23 minutes. Holy cow. Gotta get cooking. So that is, yes, you do waste mana, but it gets the encounter done. It did for these guys, and it's definitely necessary. And in the end, the type of cushion that gives your raid for mistakes is the purpose of proactive healing, or very insane damage coming across all of your targets is another reason for proactive healing. Now, if we jump over to real quick a Ricky here. Let's not even go there. Let's move on because we don't have a lot of time. So at least to meet my 30-minute deadline. Oh my god. So yeah, you do lose a lot of mana with proactive healing. Reactive is much more targeted. Moving on. So my next little point is I really think that the healers will be balanced through their healing. Not so much, excuse me, the healers, look at this amazing chart I made. I made this chart here. It took me like 6 days to make this amazing chart. But I think the healers will be relatively balanced in their healing. I made this as an example here that I'm going to talk about in a second. But the healers will have the same healing prowess. They might not heal the exact same though, in my opinion. And I'm about to go into why that is, or why I think that is going to be the case. So let's move into that. One reason that is, I think players deserve it. Like a lot of players that have played games like these traditional MMOs, when those games came out, they were pretty new to the design phase in its infancy, at least as MMOs go, and class design. You know, class designs are pretty much ported over from tabletops or MUDs, and the way they port it over isn't exactly one for one. It doesn't really work that great if you go directly with it, because in those other games there's a lot of RNG that takes place where there is much less RNG that takes place in current MMOs. They try to get the RNG out of the picture to make it more, I guess, fair or sensible. Like, it'd be crazy if it's like your heal could heal for 1,000 or for 10. I mean, that's, you know, that's just nuts. We wouldn't even think that makes sense. So players deserve it. We deserve to have, if you're playing a druid, you deserve to be wanted for a raid for your healing. Same with a shaman, same with a cleric. You should be wanted for that, specifically for your healing. And it should be a perk that your support and utility come along with those classes. It should be like the icing on top of the cake. And I'm going to go into why I think that is the case, or why it should be the case next, I think. What do we do in that next? We need it for the future. You like my little notes here? They're terrible. So I'm going to go real quick into the balance. This is, I created this chart here. So what this is the cleric, shaman, and druid broken down, and support, utility, healing. You can see how that's broken down here. And I kind of made a really crude representation of what the healers were like in EverQuest. Okay, and this is just to give you an example of the future as they release more expansions, what can happen with these classes if they don't properly prepare them for expandability. And this is what a lot of MMOs made the mistake with back in the day, and they've really drifted away from, and this is why it's very important to do this. So as you can see right now, I decided to take each of these classes and give them 20 total power points. And so each one of these blocks represents a power point, and then in each category I distributed them. So the cleric here, sorry, I was like, am I even streaming? Am I just talking to myself? So the cleric here has a very strong healing, you know, some kind of poopy utility. The way I would view utility is like Spirit of the Wolf, or Shrew, Pack of the Shrew Pack, whatever, or things of that nature. Support, I would look at as like their buffs. So utility is kind of like something that affects the environment to make life better, or something better for them, whatever that may be. Druids can stop it from raining, whatever. They get damage shields. Shamans get, I don't even know what shamans get. What do shamans get for utility? They could make water? Whatever, doesn't matter. They had a pet? That's a utility thing, maybe? I don't know, whatever. So, doesn't really matter. This is just crude representation to create a point. So, now let's say they want to add 10 levels to an expansion and go from 20 points of power to 25 points of power, because you need to keep balance in life. So we're going to go 25 points of power. The cleric's going to get 3 points in, let's give him 3 points in 1, 2, 3 in healing, because you know what, yeah, 3 points in healing, and then you know, 2 here. All right, and then let's the shaman's going to get some more buffs, so give him 3 here. And, you know, his healing's a little crappy, so let's give him 2 there. Sorry for the C word, guys. And the Druid, you know, like, oh man, what are we gonna do with the Druid? Let's do 3 there and 2 here. So, okay, all right, cool. That works out. And there's another expansion where they go to level 30, you know, 30 power points. Now, this is, I think, the way... I'm not a developer by any means. I'm not really in it, but this is what it felt like they were doing, because they didn't know how to really deal with this. And with this problem here, if you can see where this is going to go. So now we're going to add 5 more points. You're going to want your character to feel like increases in power. So we're going to increase in power a little bit. And then, you know, oh boy, we got to catch up these buffs. So it went at 1, 2, it went 1 point into healing, 3 points here, and 1 point there. And then the shaman is, you know, falling behind. But you know what? Let's just make him wanted for that. So 2 points there, 2 points there, and then 1 point here. That's 5. That's up to 30 power level. And then the Druid was got what, 1, 2, 3. Now let's get the Druid. Let's get the Druid's buffs a little bit better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what you can see happening here is what kind of happened in EverQuest is as we leveled up, the discrepancy, or the, not the discrepancy, but the disparity between the classes only gets graver as time goes on. So what they decided to do, for whatever reason, eventually they went to this kind of maneuver. Eventually, with AA points, all things considered, this is what kind of happened, from what I understand. And they did this because they didn't know what else to do. So it kind of just grew over time into something like this. And if you can see, very interestingly, why on earth would you ever bring a Druid when the shamans can heal better, the clerics can heal better, and the shamans have better buffs and utility? Well, the only thing that these guys are bringing is utility, which is gating, Spirit of the Wolf, stuff that infects the environment that didn't really influence raiding too much. So that is what it was like in EverQuest, or that was how classes really used to work back in the day when they leveled them, because they compared their power in an overall sense. As you can see, they took 20 points of power, distributed it across 3 different categories. And that is how they justified this. And that is typically how it works in tabletop games and MUDs and stuff like that. So that didn't work. So that's the old school, blah, blah, blah. Make the chart with HUS. Bam. So what do I think they're going to do in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen? Oh, one thing I didn't really note or mention is diminishing returns. So what timer am I at here? What timer am I at? Oh, nice. So this is like a stupid screen. There's diminishing returns on certain classes' support, specifically the shaman. And there could be diminishing return on other classes' healing as well. What I mean by diminishing return is if you bring one shaman to a raid and his strong suit is his utility, or excuse me, is his support, and then you bring another shaman to the raid and only their buffs can't override each other, then you only need one shaman because his healing is junk. It was junk. You only need one shaman if that's all you need. Not if you need maybe 2 shamans to try to land a spell, like there's the RNG of your spells not landing or them fading, and if you have 2 shamans pumping it, it was worth it because the encounter was that difficult. Sure, 2 shamans, but that would be it. So that would be the problem with that if it was like it was, where if they didn't balance off healing, they balanced off utility. You have to deal with that problem. Granted, in Pantheon, I think they're going right now, at least last I heard, they were working on a 12-man raid, or 24 or 20 or 30 or 40, whatever the case may be, but it looks like they're going off of breaking the encounters up by group size. So you know, bring 2 groups of 6, 12 or 24, or you can even bring 18, doesn't really matter. But again, the encounters will likely be controlled by the disposition or AI of the game. You know, if you run in there with 40 people, something will happen and you'll raid boss will run away. And if you run in there with the right amount of people, it won't engage you. So that's the other thing is the diminishing return to bring a certain class to a raid. In EverQuest, there was no issue bringing 50 clerics. They could all be awesome because their thing was healing. Shamans had issues with that, and the druids as well. Just, you know, kind of got the short end of the stick as far as that goes. They could also do damage. I don't really have damage in here because clerics will get damage, shamans will have damage, and so will druids. And again, I don't think that is also a very good thing to balance off of, especially if you're a healer. Just saying. Excuse me. I gotta booch it. Gotta booch it, man. Okay. So, moving on. Let's move on. So, what do I think they need to do for Pantheon Rise of Fallen, or what do I think they're going to do? This is what I think they need to do. Bro, this is what I think they need to do. So, what we're going to do here, I'm not going to do it right now. But, what I think they need to do is this. This is what they need to do. You need to make the healing prowess of each class the same. And then take these 20 points of power here and break it into their utility. And actually, ooh, how did I do that? Wow. Oh, weird. How am I doing that? Oh, ooh, that's it. So, now if they did this, if this is what they did, if they ignored this 20 points of power thing and then evenly distributed it into the classes, that would make the most sense. Now you're saying this is baloney. I know a lot of people on paper, it's going to look like baloney, but these need to always match. These need to be, when you look at these classes, you almost shouldn't even. All right, so we're back. I'm going to try to guess where I was at. I kind of got lost track of time. Lost track of time. Just kidding. I didn't lose track of time. My kid made me lose track of time by peeing all over his pants, his bed. Had a little potty time excitement. So, yeah, I think where I was going on about is that the healing needs to be balanced in this sense and not incorporated into the power of each class. With this, you could have the depreciating return on the shaman with his utility and still need other shamans. For example, same thing with Druid with his utility and support, and same thing with cleric. This also allows you to bring more uniqueness to each class through their utility and support and their healing, because with the same amount of power given, it gives you more wiggle room to do what you want to do versus pushing more power towards a different class to allow the content to be done. Also gives you more content diversity. So from going back to where we started here, thinking about this as a developer, this allows you to push out more unique types of healing to your classes to engage the group in different ways with different challenges as a content creator that is making raid bosses, for example, or even just dungeon bosses, because now you're not limited to just the, you know, the shaman has to be able to slow it, the druid has to whatever, or the cleric has to whatever. You know, the cleric has to use his amazing single, you know, vigilance cooldown, and the druid needs to use his Vine Woven Grove and upheaval and Herode's Rescue to create these certain circumstances to make it whatever the shaman does it simply. Even though you'd have to be doing that anyways, but it will be equally challenging or more equally challenging for each healing class depending on what you are doing. Depending on what you're doing, boy. So, yeah, that's really mostly what I wanted to say as far as doing that. And then moving forward, this makes it so much easier to balance the classes if they're even like this as far as the healing goes. Okay. So again, I talked about reactive and proactive healing, the shaman and druid. The druid's kind of unique in a sense. My only concern really with depreciating return on healing is the druid, because one of the most powerful heals, or powerful heals is a wrong word. I think the Verdant Fire tree is really the druid's forte as far as its, ooh, nice, which I believe Verdant Fire trees will stack, but the way the druid gets its mana back, which seems very unique, which seems also kind of to be very situational, because you'll need to not only seed somebody, They will need to not get healed while that seed is on them before they take damage, so the seed can actually effectively pop at the end of the day to get mana back to the Druid. I feel like the seed's going to have more viability with the Druid just in a group versus in a raid. So, but the Verdant Fire tree is going to be really good in a raid, and the Druid's heals on top of that, and the seed in general, but they're not going to rely too much on the mana back for this seed. The Shaman just gets mana back naturally, even in combat, as if he was out of combat, which is nice, but yeah, so the Druid's going to have focused single target heals with shielding. I guess I could jump over here. Focused single target heals with shielding, but the really unique thing about the Druid is they're going to be the Druid's ability to control the environment to the Druid's advantage, or protect the Druid. Will be able to protect her or himself with abilities like Vine Woven Grove and Herode's Rescue and Upheaval. And what else you got here? Verdant Fire Vines, you know, Rock Vine Tangle, Gust of Leaves, baby. I'm sure you guys have all read over these abilities like 600 times. But yeah, that is really, at least in a group sense, the Druid will have that type of coverage, and in a raid as well. If the Druid has to go off on its own and perform any type of unique healing job. So yeah, the Druid will be single target heals with some shielding, and then that pulsating Verdant Fire tree is going to be great. Gonna be great, boys. And that would be the Druid. And I think the healing prowess of the Druid will be relatively close. Not exact, because that's, you know, pretty much impossible, because they're completely different. But the Shaman will be able to toss a lot of heal over times out on the group. He will have a single target heal that also will splash to other targets in the group, but still pretty great. But mostly focused on putting regens out there and finishing those regens, at least with some cooldowns. Like this, the Shaman, bar none, will have the strongest raid healing. Just looking at these healing abilities alone. If you put out just Hurry Past alone, you can put out a ton of regens across your raid. And then just casting Hurry the Past completes those regens. So those regens heal for their full amount. Then the regen gets reapplied. So if you need to bounce a raid up, it's pretty fantastic. And I mean, again, he does have, you know, decent single target heals. Not going to be the best in the game. But they also have splash across the group. And then he has great, you know, I didn't even go for the Druid for the Verdant Fire, not the Verdant Fire, but the Crystals. The Druid just basically has a ton of really awesome utility. On top of that, very strong heals. But the heals look like they're more... You're going to need to work a little bit more at it with your situation or positioning. That's going to be like that's how the healing is going to be difficult to execute with the Druid. Would be positioning, not only just your spells, but yourself and your group members. The Shaman looks like they're going to be kind of cooldown based and kind of anticipating what's going to happen. You know, they need to get their hots out there, be ready for it. Again, proactively apply their healing before stuff gets nasty. And if stuff gets nasty and they're not ready for it, that, you know, maybe they won't be able to catch up and rebound themselves. Or maybe they'll have some cooldowns. I mean, granted, they'll have cooldowns, you know, to really probably deal with that, but not over and over and over again. Where the Cleric will constantly be in a state of reactive healing. The only time the Cleric's really going to suffer, at least in a group sense, I'm kind of going over group senses right now, is when a lot of the group members are taking damage. They have some cooldowns to mitigate that, like Vigilance, which we see here, which you place a mark on one group member, and any damage anybody else from that group takes goes to the marked target, stuff like that. And they also have a couple of, you know, bursts of life, a lot of reactive major cooldowns that's reducing all incoming damage, you know, Reckoning Shield. They have a lot of nice stuff to reduce incoming damage on single targets for a period of time. But if indeed they have to sustain healing a large number of people over a long period of time, they will eventually fall behind because they can't put anything out that will proactively heal like some of the other classes, and that's where they can kind of bounce off each other in raids for the most part, is what I would expect. That's what I would expect. You never know. Again, this is just my guess. All my guesses. But that is why I feel like that way, and it is that way in my opinion. Not is that way, but it is likely to play out that way in my opinion, because I stare at a picture of, you know, before I even started the stream, I just stare at Chris Perkins, a little photo of him, just trying to meld myself with his mind. But on a more serious note, you can't, like I'm saying, the old way of doing it, it just didn't work with balancing healers against each other, utilizing all three of these categories to represent their strength. Because as you saw, it just, as time goes on, it just doesn't work. And I think another reason why they shifted to AAs almost is to help these classes balance out a little bit, maybe, or just give it a deeper window to go down, or just have more fun building up the power of your character, most likely. I think also AAs was a great thing. So we all love AAs, you know, we love them, but it doesn't work as far as making the game live. You need the game, you know, you got to give your game life support. You can't cut its legs out. You know, it's got to constantly bringing new players in. You got to constantly bring players in, and you're going to be constantly losing players. And players are going to be wanting to switch classes. Players are going to be wanting to do all these things constantly. And if you gate them really hard in any way, that's crazy. You know, you might, the game will eventually dwindle. That's what happens to a lot of games. They make it so crazy that they can't do it. It doesn't work out. Where am I at here? 47 seconds. So I think that's it, guys. As far as healers go in Pantheon Rise of Fallen, that is my take. And that's why I think they're going to be like that. At least balanced out in that manner. Reactive, proactive, a little bit of both. But their healing prowess. Equality, everybody. Equality. That's it. Hopefully that makes sense. That's how I feel. That's how I feel, boys. I guess that's it. That's the timer. That's game over. That's game over. Any questions, let me know. All right, guys, and that is that. That is that, my friends. I'm not always going to be leaving a little outro here, or maybe I will. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with these little, like, clips from Twitch, but I'm going to try to make them at least somewhat formatted for YouTube and interesting. By any means, or by any measure, you can leave me comments here on the channel or hit me up on the Twitch, but I will be addressing any type of question like that throughout the week from the channel and then posting it here. So I guess Green Chat, you know, Green Chat still is a place where you can ask me questions. I give you my opinion, hopefully formulate your own. And that's really where this channel started, and I like to keep it there. But this just gives me so much more ways to explore interacting with you guys and interacting with Pantheon content without having too much overhead as real life gets crazy. Like, this crazy stuff went down today. I mean, I could go into it, but you guys don't want to hear that stuff. I will, and, you know, if you want to check it out, you can check me out on Twitch. I'm sure I'll be complaining over there, because, oh my god. But anyway, yeah, if you guys liked what you saw, please consider liking and subscribing. Get a notification for future uploads I do for Pantheon Rise of Fallen content. Again, guys, I'd like to say thank you for watching, and I'll see you again really soon.